Welcome to Beaver Street Commissary Chef Studio, and I'm Chef Chris, and this is my commercial kitchen, and we are working with the North Florida Green Chamber, and part of this project is turning our commissary into a zero food waste facility, meaning that we are not only cooking everything that we can, but any of our food waste is not going into the dumpster. We're trying to reduce our footprints wherever possible. And part of that is to start with a bokashi method. And then the next thing I'll work on is my worm bed. But first, we're going to talk about the bokashi method, and I'm going to introduce you to Tiffany from Apple Rabbit Compost. She has been awesome. She has guided me from the moment one we said, hey, I'd like to do this, to where we are right now. We're going to make the bokashi and it has to sit. And then Michelle Chan Sen Thong, welcome. And she is Michelle in the Meadow. She does live videos talking about her garden and what she's got going on and how she is working and keeping her homestead 100% zero waste, zero chemicals, zero anything. So the more that we can all do this, the better off our environment is and the better off our community is. And the Green Chamber is here to help any business get to that point. So let's bounce over and talk to Tiffany. Tiffany, tell us a little bit about Apple Rabbit Compost.
All right. Hey, so Apple Rabbit Compost is Jacksonville's first food scrap composting diversion service. We started in 2016 as a means to help restaurants and residents here in Jacksonville reduce how much waste they're sending to the landfill. So with that, we offer a subscription service where we provide a bucket to our subscribers that they get to fill up with their food scraps. And either they get to drop it off at the arts market each week, or we pick it up from their house every week. We also work with restaurants, and we do compost consultations and bin build outs. So we can actually help you get started composting in your own backyard. Some people really enjoy doing it themselves. So we can help them do that. And if you don't want to do it yourself, we can also help you by providing service.
Thank you. Michelle, let's talk about your meadow a little bit.
Hey everyone, I'm Michelle in the Meadow. I go live on Facebook almost every day talking about my urban homestead, and I really do try to aspire to have no inorganic items happening. I really do aspire to all that, and it's a process. It's not a perfect process, but I think along with Chris, if we continue to work on trying to find ways that we reduce our waste, reduce the poisons, reduce the toxins, if one person on each street does that, all of a sudden it becomes 10% better or 30% better or 60% better. And so we can continue to make those improvements. And I was really excited to hear that Chef Chris was going to do bokashi, because I was just learning about it. It was a great intersection there. But it really is important. It is important to me. I have a freezer full of food scraps now waiting for this to get ready and get started. So I'm excited to be here. So thank you, Chris, for facilitating this and inviting me to be a part.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm definitely excited. I already, I spoke briefly yesterday to Tiffany, and in just 2 weeks, I've already got about 50 pounds of food scraps, whether it be potato peels, things that we can't use in meals for catering and things like that. It wouldn't even work for stocks. I already have that much in the freezer, so I'm way ahead of the game. By the time the bokashi settles down and sits for 2 weeks, I'm going to be way ahead of the game. So, and we're going to also incorporate this at our home also. So I'm really looking forward to learning as much as we can, and working with the Green Chamber. We're going to do a complete study for a year and see how much we can reduce costs here at the commissary And I'm totally stoked about that. Obviously, every penny counts now more than ever. Now more than ever. That's for sure. So let's get started because Michelle's standing out in the heat. I'm standing in the heat, and you know, we want to get this bokashi started to ferment. And so basically, you can use a couple of different methods. And Tiffany, you can walk us through this if you want to, but we have coffee shake right here, and we each have 5 pounds. We each have 2 tablespoons of EM1, and we each have 2 tablespoons of non-sulfuric acid, or sulfuric, the molasses. And then we each have hot water. So if you want to talk us through it, we'll dump and mix and talk about what we're doing.
Well, can I give a little bit of history and about what bokashi is first?
Awesome.
Okay, so bokashi means fermented organic matter in Japanese. It's a natural farming technique that basically ferments food first. It makes it softer and allows it to break it down faster. And the primary backbone behind bokashi is anaerobic microbes, which is what you're getting with that EM1. So the EM1 is going to contain all the microbes that is going to pickle and ferment that food. And those microbes are going to be lactic acid, photosynthetic bacteria, and yeast. So we know about fermenting with yeast that makes beer. We know about lactic acid fermenting that makes kefir. And so it's kind of like something we already know when it comes to like our food systems. And so EM1, the organisms, the material was created in the 60s, the late 60s by Dr. Higo, a Japanese scientist. And basically, although those microbes all exist in nature, they'd never been found together before. And when he combined these organisms together throughout this waste of a science project outside in his bush, when he came back to it later, he saw that it grew, or, you know, it looked very healthy. The grass, you know, everything looked very healthy. So that's when he realized that these organisms together, this little trinity of organisms, does wonders for our garden and our soil. So that's where EM1 comes from. So you have these organisms inside the EM1, and you're feeding it with the molasses. So you're going to add the molasses to it, and that's going to feed these organisms. And you're going to mix that with the warm water, and then you're going to incorporate that into your bran. And that can be a lot of different things. Like we're using the coffee chafe, or you can use oat bran, wheat bran, I mean, tons of different brands. You can use spent grains as well, like from a brewery. We've made some bokashi brand from brewery spent grains. And so then after you've mixed your molasses together, how much did you say it was? 2 tablespoons?
Yep, 2 tablespoons of each, and then 5 cups of water. And we each have 5 pounds, Michelle and I each have 5 pounds of coffee chafe from graciously given to us by Martin Coffee. And there's a reason why I mentioned Martin Coffee. They are Business Person of the Year bid through the chamber, and that's how I met him. And he was like, absolutely, you can have coffee chafe. They have a plethora of it at Martin Coffee. And basically, he gave me what I needed to get going. So I'm totally excited about that.
It's awesome using, you know, what is already waste products. So, you know, the coffee chafe, you know, that's a waste product. It's like the shells from the coffee beans during the roasting process. Or if you're getting spent grains from a brewery, you know, that's something else that gets thrown away. So instead of sending that to the landfill, we can actually turn it into something, help save more stuff from going to the landfill, which is really awesome. So now that you have your liquid, you're going to inoculate that, or you're going to inoculate the bran with it. So you're going to mix that in there. Maybe don't pour all of it in, just so that you know, make sure it's not too moist, but I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah. And then we just mix it around.
Yep.
And we try to get it wet. Now, keep in mind, this is 120-degree water. So what we're trying to do is activate everything. You want the warm water. You don't need it boiling, obviously, but you want it to get in there and start mixing it up and make kind of like a paste, kind of. It wouldn't be quite as thick as a dough, but it's definitely something that's wet, but not super wet. So Michelle and I will start mixing up our water and chafe, and we'll start spreading this around.
I have a question now, Tiffany. When we're doing the warm water, Chef Chris, you know, getting to 120 precisely is a challenge for maybe the home user. Is there a top end that we don't want to worry about? We want warm, but how hot is too hot?
I mean, I probably wouldn't try to go much more than the 120. You know, I'm sure if it's not up to the 120, I'm sure it's better to be colder than to be hotter.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And then you can also add water to it once you have your inoculants in, just to make sure, in case you don't have quite enough water. I read, trust me, I've been doing some research. Since I met Tiffany, I've been immersed in composting and bokashi and worms, and never thought I would be researching this stuff as a chef, but hey, here I am.
Hey, it makes sense. You deal with food every day, and you know, why send even your scraps to the landfill, you know?
Yeah.
Well, it makes it come full circle, right? Because then this comes back and grows more food.
Exactly.
Right, and that's what we're looking for. You know, we're looking for anything that we can do to help Mother Nature, and because she's pretty important in our lives.
Definitely.
I
We need
think.
to take care of her like she takes care of us.
Yes, definitely. So you kind of want it to be a little thicker than this,
Yeah.
but not too much. So I'm gonna add.
Imagine like a soft granola, you know, that brown, sugary, delicious, soft granola, like that sort of texture.
Yeah. And then you have to get all the way to the bottom, so you may want to wear a dust mask, or you're going to start sneezing. But most people are going to be doing it up underneath their chin. Like
Doesn't it feel like you're making a recipe right now? You're just like making something.
I'm not making anything that I'm going to eat, no. But I'm really hoping that it eats a lot of vegetables.
Yeah, so when you're bokashiing food, some people will think that it's going to turn it into compost right away, which isn't it's not the case at all. So it is like a pre-composting method. So you will bokashi your scraps, but then you will still have to finish composting it in a more traditional manner, whether it's through a tumbler like what you have behind you, a windrow system, a triple bin system, a worm bin, you know, something else. You will have to still finish it. But the bokashiing will speed along that process. It makes the food real soft. And so when you start to compost it the traditional way, it breaks down almost half the amount of time.
That's awesome.
So when you look at the bokashi, like after you have bokashied your food scraps and you've let that sit, when you look at your food, it's still going to look very similar to how it looked when you put it in there. But it's going to be soft and it's going to break down real quick.
That's cool. It's way cool. I mean, we're going to be, when I get this all mixed up, and we are going to I'm going to put it back in a bucket, airtight container, And I'm gonna put it in the commissary in a nice warm, not hot, not cold area. And I'm gonna basically, so I've got my
Perfect.
holding together, but it's not super flaky and it's not a dough either. So it is holding together, and that's all we need is it wet, from what I've read and studied and learned so far.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So then 2 weeks from now, we're gonna open up this container, and I'll be back online at that point. We're gonna open up this container, and it's gonna have, it could possibly have a little bit of white mold, and that's okay. So when you open up your container after 2 weeks, if you have the black mold, you don't want that. That means not good. But it's okay to have the white. And for any of us that deal with a lot of cheeses, we understand what we're talking about. It's basic fermentation. That's what we want. And then we want to start adding our vegetables into our compost bin. And then just every time we walk by it, we're just going to spin it. It doesn't have to be spun but 2-3 times a week. But if you're walking past, you might as well walk past and give it a spin.
Sorry, I have a train coming, so. It might be done now.
So Michelle, how's yours looking?
I'm doing pretty good. I had to cool my water down, so I'm a little bit behind you.
That's okay.
So I had just a little hot, so I got it cooled down, and I am getting it stirred in now. You know, not having a big prep kitchen like you, I didn't have anything big enough to do the whole 5 pounds in, so I got my biggest bowl out.
I hear you.
And this is actually my salad bowl. This is what I like to make salads in. And so I'm just mixing what I have here. I'm getting there. I wish I'd have brought gloves like you have, though, because that would have been better. But I'm fixing to get my hands down in here. I actually don't mind getting dirty. I kind of like in the garden when I get some dirt under my fingernails. I kind of feel like I'm connecting with the earth. And so it's fun for me to do this. But it does feel like I'm making a batch of oatmeal cookies, really, is what this looks like to me.
I'm getting ready to cook this.
And so it's pretty moist when I'm squeezing it. A little bit's dripping through.
That's probably a little too moist if it's dripping out.
Okay. All right, then I won't put any more in here, and I will add some more bokashi flakes. I have more in the house.
Okay.
And I will get a few more and get them added in here.
Yeah, so we want it to hold together a little bit with moisture, but not dripping. And we want it to be, you know, where you can still move it around. So it's not a dough.
Okay.
We definitely don't need a dough.
I also want to say when you are storing your bokashi brand that you're making and you're letting it do its thing and ferment, you know, and inoculate the bran or the coffee chafe, it's really important to keep it not just in a airtight container, but it also needs to be somewhere like dark. So it needs to not have light beaming down on it. It needs to be somewhere nice and dark. So that's important too.
I got just a spot. I got a closet.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
And if you can't, you know, if you can't find a good spot to put it that, you know, isn't dark enough, then just make sure you put it in something like a black trash bag or something like that, you know, if that's something that you can't do.
Yeah, like this.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Is there a temperature we should store it at? Is there a temperature we should store it at? Like, should I put it in the garage or should I not put it in the garage?
I wouldn't put it in our garages here in Florida just because, you know, hot, very, very hot. I mean, I would say stick it outside, you know, off the side of the house that doesn't get much sunlight. Stick it off to that side. I mean, everyone's yards are a little different, I guess, but
yeah.
Somewhere that's like shaded, you know, keep it somewhere nice and dark like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm blessed to have a very sunny yard, so I have a feeling I'll find me a place in a closet here somewhere.
Right.
You know.
I have so much
And
shade,
putting
like
it in
little
black
shady areas in my yard.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not dripping now when well, just a tiny bit now. Okay, so I'm getting closer.
Yeah, this is awesome. So mine's kind of, it takes a lot of mixing. Don't worry about that. It takes a lot of mixing to spread out that moisture.
Yeah.
It looks great. Like you can see the color difference.
Yeah, and then what's gonna happen is 2 weeks from now, we're gonna pull this out and we're gonna lay it out on a sheet or a pan or whatever you want to do, and we can set it out in the sun and dry it. And then you can bag it up in Ziplocs once you've got it all nice and dry.
Yep.
That's even better. Because I try to use containers that I reuse all the time instead of Ziplocs. So you can do that. I have plenty of containers that are recycled. So I try to use those, and then we'll dry it out. You can even dry it in an oven. You literally spread this on a sheet pan and put it in a 200-degree oven and just bake all the moisture out real slow.
Yeah. Dehydrate it.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I'm really glad I'm doing this outside though, y'all, because I've made quite the mess.
Are you making a big mess? I'm not.
I am making a mess.
Good.
So when you're talking about like containers and stuff, I find that containers from a restaurant like these, I have a whole bunch of these, and these are like usually what I'll store my brand in. So reduce, reuse, recycle. If you can go to a restaurant, and ask for their old spice containers, ask them to save them for you. Go pick them up every week. It's a great little thing for this, and I mean they have a lot of purposes for other stuff too.
Yeah, that's perfect. That keeps those out of our dumpsters.
Exactly.
If we can keep out of our dumpsters, we're doing good. Because my ultimate goal is here at the commissary is to reduce from 2 dumpsters down to 1, and that no food products go into it whatsoever. And that's where the worms and the bokashi and all of that's going to come into play. And it's going to be, every commissary member is going to be working towards the same goal, which is recycling, reusing, and helping each other out.
Yeah.
That's what we want to do.
It's important. I mean, once you start composting, in the sort of place that you are, a commissary, for a traditional restaurant, 60% of their waste stream is food waste. And I can only imagine for a commissary, that's either the same, if not more, and if it's not just food waste, it's also like paper towels and cardboard boxes and, things like that, which are compostable as well. So.
Yeah, but let's talk about the shiny print on the Sunday newspaper ads.
Yeah.
We don't want those.
Oh yeah, no shiny paper, but dyes are good, or inks. You can put in colored inks into your compost. We use water-based inks. We have for a very long time at this point. So that is good and safe in your compost as well. Bleached paper is good too, like that is a-okay to add in there. Just no shiny paper, like you said, because that's coated in plastic and you don't want to add plastic to your compost.
No.
It doesn't break down.
Talking about the resources from the restaurant, one of the things I have fun doing in my own neighborhood is on trash day and yard day is I take a spin around on my bicycle and see if there are any free resources that I can use around my garden. And so I use a lot of wood to build hugelkultures as well as bordering some of the garden beds. And so I'll pop back in my car if I can, if it's too big for me to carry on my bike and bring the car around always hauling something home. My neighbors are like, what in the world is this woman doing? But I just call it rescuing stuff from the waste stream that I can put to work here.
I understand how you feel. You know, at Apple Rabbit, we use leaves, primarily leaves, to as the carbon source for our composting. And so we just drive around, like when we're doing our pickups or just whenever we are around, or we ask people to let us know. And we just pick up bags of leaves off the side of the road. Right. And like throw it in the back of my truck. And I'm sure people are like, what is this person doing? I stop real quick, hop out, grab their bags of leaves, throw it back there, and just like, what is she doing?
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know if on the video you can see the pile of chips over my shoulder.
Yes.
So there was a trees being taken down and a new build around the corner. And we were driving by and they had the wood chipper on site. And I went by and asked the guy, I said, would you be interested in having a place to dump that? He goes, well, if I'm full. No, I meant like a place to dump it before you leave the neighborhood. And he seemed completely shocked. And so he backed up and left me, I guess, somewhere around 10 yards of mulch, which granted is not finished mulch, but if I had to pay for that, it would probably have been $400 or $500 worth of mulch. And I gave him a nice tip for stopping by, and then I had to hire a friend of mine to help me get it all moved because it was a lot, but still.
It is
I was
a
able to
lot.
mulch everything I wanted to mulch and still have enough to start a compost pile now.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So everything that we can do in groups. We can do, you know, there's no reason why you can't invite your families on and do a family Zoom and show them what you're doing, talk about the importance. And then next thing you know, the kids are involved. And once you get the kids involved, you've got everybody else locked in. And that's what we want. We want kids to understand that the environment is completely up to them. They're the future. We're just setting the stage. So we want them to understand that everything that we do, whether it's the worm bin, they can go play with the worms, whether it's the bokashi, they're breaking down the vegetables, teaching them to cook. And when you're teaching them to cook in the kitchen, you have a little pail in your kitchen that all of the scraps can go in. And then why are we doing that? So we want to create an environment where everything is a learning experience for them, as most parents do. So we want them to be knowledgeable from the get-go. And then it becomes a regular habit. Like I've got, in the kitchens here at Beaver Street Commissary, we've got 4 kitchens, and I've already got each kitchen set up with food waste buckets right next to their trash can. And it's just a matter of changing their routines. And it's not a big change. You have to make it painless for everybody. And part of the painlessness is I've provided all of the buckets that they need. All they have to do is dump it into the container and then scoop bokashi and pour it in. But then the question is going to be how much bokashi? How much food to how much bokashi? And that's where Tiffany comes in.
Yeah, so are you using like a 5-gallon bucket, like just regular 5-gallon bucket? For a 5-gallon bucket, I use about 2 quarts of bokashi bran, maybe a little less, maybe about 1.5. About 1.5.
Yep.
1.5.
That would be right there. It would be 1.5 quarts.
Yeah.
This is 2 quarts.
Yeah.
So you're going to have about 1.5 quarts. For those of you that are teaching your kids math and things like that, you can do how many cups are in a quart. You can make every single bit of this can be like homeschooling. It can be part of the projects. A lot of you are keeping your kids home for homeschooling this fall. So let's teach them bokashi. Let's teach them composting. Let's teach them the measurements.
So when you're bokashiing, so here's like one of my bokashi kits. It's got like the spigot to drain out any excess liquids, and it's a double bucket. So you have the bottom bucket where the liquids will store, and then you have that second bucket inside, and it has holes on the bottom. Sorry, my bucket's dirty. It has holes on the bottom.
Awesome.
So you will take, when you're bokashing, you'll take the food scraps, you'll put it in there, you'll sprinkle the bokashi bran over it. You can use like a plate or something to kind of, or like a masher to mash the food down so that you're pushing out as much oxygen out of there as you possibly can, because bokashing is an anaerobic process, which means you don't want oxygen in there. So you will put your food scraps in there, sprinkle enough bokashi on there to kind of cover it. Not too much, but you, like I said, about 1.5 quarts is going to take care of this whole bucket. So you'll kind of want to divvy it up. When you add it in there, you're going to push out that oxygen, seal up the lid, and keep doing that until your bucket is completely full. So, you know, at a commissary, that's probably going to happen very, very quickly. But so you're going to, once that bucket's full, you're going to seal it off. You're going to put that lid on there, and you're going to leave it alone for 2 weeks. So you can't let any oxygen get into that. You need to leave it alone for 2 weeks at least. And then after that, you'll do your like regular composting method.
Right on. Right on. So Michelle, you got any questions?
I think I'm done. So Tiffany, will you give me a critique here? Because I have no drips.
No drips?
No drips. And it does feel like crumbly granola.
Yeah, that looks good. I think you've got a good one. It's kind of a little blurry on my end. I can't see it too well, but
that's great.
It looks good, I think.
That's great.
And nothing's dripping through my fingers. That's what it's very moist, but I don't have any liquid coming through my fingers now.
Yeah, that's what you're looking
for. I feel like
for.
it almost make a snowball, but not quite.
Perfect.
That's great. So we're gonna come back.
About this. Next to get a black bag.
So we're gonna come back in a couple of weeks, Michelle and I, and we're gonna show our bokashi finished, and then we're gonna start our processing then with some fun composting, and we're gonna pull out some frozen food the day before, and we're gonna get ready. So
awesome.
I'm excited, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah, so y'all have a great day, and thanks for joining us at the Beaver Street Commissary Chef Studio.
All right, awesome. And if you guys want to learn more about composting, bokashi composting, worm composting, reach out to me at applerabbit.org, or you can send me an email at applerabbitcompost@gmail.com.
Great, that's great. And we'll have all of the logos up and contact information. And everybody needs to watch Michelle in the Meadow every morning. It's a really fun thing to do. It kind of gets your day going. So I invite everybody, and let's all make it a better place to live.